In shocking breaking news, per ESPN, the Pac-12 and Commissioner George Kliavkoff agree to part ways. Oh, sorry, just got a notification on my phone. Radio Shack has fired its CEO. Oh, here's another one. Toys R Us has fired its president. Oh, the Volt energy drink will part ways with its CEO. What are we doing here, man? Are you going to tell me next that the Blockbuster Council of Elders has been eliminated? George Kliavkoff, this thing that doesn't exist, this entity that is a Fugazi, has been fired from his Fugazi entity. Heather Dinich writes, the Pac-12 and embattled Commissioner George Kliavkoff have mutually agreed to part ways, the league announced Friday. What did this look like? Is it just George Kliavkoff sitting in a room with himself? He's like, yeah, I've thought about this a lot, long and hard. And I think we're going to have to move on. And then he's like, you know what? I think I'm right. We are going to have to move on. Is that how this went? The Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore. And look, by way of this NCAA death period where they get a grace of 2 years where they still kind of exist, the Pac-12 assets are still there. And if you've been an everydayer on this show, you know that affects the way the college football playoff format is. If it's a 5+7, which that vote is expected on February 20th, or if it's the 6+6 and how that's all going to move, that is an effect. That's an effect of the fact that the Pac-12 is still in existence in technicality. So don't take my jest for complete jest here. George Kliavkoff being now the deposed Pac-12 commissioner does mean something, but what do you do? What do you do? Is the room just Washington State and Oregon State? Is it just Murthy and Schultz? Is it just Kirk Schultz being like, well, do we hire another commissioner? At this point, I don't know what you would do. I don't know what you would do in it, because there's no way to salvage this league. There's no way. I listen to a lot of what John Kurtz does. I think John Kurtz is great. I listen to a lot of I listen to Locked On College Football now is what it is. It used to be Locked On Pac-12. And the idea that the Pac-12 could salvage itself is one that's very admirable. Think about this. If you're a TCU fan, a Texas Tech fan, I mean, if the Big 12 had fallen apart 2 years ago, you would want to survive in any possible format. And Bob Bowlesby being on his way out wasn't bad news to us, but we were still alive. Whatever we could do to stay alive was great. And it feels like whatever the Pac-12 could do to stay alive is going to be great for college football. If the Mountain West and the Pac-12 merge and they call it the Pac-12, I think that's great. This doesn't exist. This isn't a real thing. George Kliavkoff, in maybe the most embarrassing display of leadership in college football history, which is saying so much. That is saying so much. But maybe the most embarrassing display, especially from a commissioner. And now it's like, dude, again, did you need to announce this? Did you put the shovel down? Put the shovel down. You have dug yourself in a hole of despair and sadness already, and now George Kliavkoff is gone. What does this mean for the Big 12? It further legitimizes the fact that despite leadership that seemed shoddy, George was worse. Despite what Bob Bowlesby seemed for the Big 12, decisions that he made, 2014, go back to TCU and Baylor, the one true champion thing, and trying to figure out who from the Big 12 was going to go to the college football playoff, and you couldn't get out of your own way. And the Big 12 loses Texas and Oklahoma, and the Big 12 loses even back then, like in Nebraska and A&M, and you think, oh, what is the leadership of this conference doing? Despite that, there has been enough competence from Bob Bowlesby and Brett Yormark to make this thing tick to the point that it's alive and it is relevant. And now the Pac-12 on away. In the realm of college football, some of this is sad. I have not been, and I do consider myself a traditionalist to an extent. I mean, I like the idea that the Big 12 stays alive. I want to keep hosting Locked On Big 12. But even in that, the fact that I don't get to see USC and UCLA play anymore it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. In the same way that if the Big 12 fell apart tomorrow, there are people who are like, yeah, I don't want to see Iowa State and Kansas State play. I don't care about that. That's fine. I mean, that's your prerogative as a college football fan. To me, if Washington State and Cal don't play again, I don't really care. I respect that you care because I care about Texas Tech playing Oklahoma State, but I can see why from a national perspective this doesn't matter. And that is why, to me, we didn't need to announce this. We didn't need to do this. We probably could have just moved on from George Kliavkoff in the Pac-2 or the Pac-12 or whatever it is and stayed quiet instead of bringing even more negative attention to what that entity is, if the entity still exists in 2 years after this grace period, which it probably won't because it sounds like the Mountain West didn't really want to merge with you guys. So, congrats, Blockbuster, for firing your president. Congrats, Circuit City, for getting rid of your CEO. That guy's gone. Just keep shedding that negative light. Keep finally when the spotlight was turned off, whoa, turn it back on. We want to make sure we look bad in front of the entire country. That's what the Pac-12 has done. Speaking of bad light, a couple of these Big 12 teams got to figure it out in basketball. Rough weekend for a couple of you guys. Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel's where I go. Yeah. It's just where I go. When I'm thinking, cupboard's kind of bare, I got to go grocery shopping. FanDuel. I go there, I say, FanDuel, I want $100 on Canisius, minus 4.5 in this basketball game on Sunday. And FanDuel says, you know what? Fine, let's do it together. FanDuel, you can get some stupid good props, good bets, even a good $150 in bonus play with any winning $5 bet. That's right, $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to shoot your shot. Bet on college basketball. March Madness is coming up. Bet on the NBA. Bet on the XFL. I bet, or USFL or USL, whatever they're calling it. Bet on it. FanDuel, official sports partner of the NBA.